Son las 2, ya volvemos a ser aquí en este plató de las Economic Zones. Vamos a presentar el informe final del Institut Cerdà y los Investment Monitor Economic Zone Awards. El Institut Cerdà presenta los resultados del último estudio comparativo de las zonas económicas europeas. Se van a analizar las fortalezas de cada zona desde la perspectiva de los objetivos de desarrollo sostenible. Posteriormente a esta presentación, que ya vais a ver que va a ser diferente a las que estamos viendo durante estos días, también se van a presentar los premios de los Economic Zones Sustainable Recovery Strategies, galardón organizado por Investment Monitor en asociación con el Consorci de la Zona Franca de Barcelona. Esta sesión, como decíamos, va a ser un poco diferente. Con nosotros tenemos a Courtney Fingar, que nos está acompañando estos días. Hello again, Courtney.
Hello.
Ella es la editora jefe de Investment Monitor, precisamente. Y tenemos también a Carlos Cabrera, del director general del Institut Cerdà. Carlos, buenas tardes.
Buenas tardes.
Bueno, pues de momento os dejo a vosotros con esta conversación y después volvemos. Gracias.
Thank you very much for the introduction. Thank you for allowing me to conduct this interview, which I'm very much looking forward to. Carlos has been very busy working on a study that is a comparison of the innovative potential of the leading European economic zones, and we'll find out through the study how Barcelona Free Zone stacks up against some competitors. Now, benchmarking, of course, is a really crucial component for investment promotion and investment attraction. Economic zones are competing actively worldwide for investment, and in order to do that, they need to understand where their own strengths lie and how they compare to competitor zones. So, without further ado, let's hear from Carlos. First of all, tell us a little bit about the Institute.
Well, thank you, Courtney, and thank you, of course, the organization to have the opportunity to explain what we have done and what are the main conclusions of our study. No? And, well, the Institute Cerdà is a private, independent and non-for-profit foundation that was set up in 1984 by a group of civil engineers. Our board of trustees is formed by 15 well-known people from different fields, education, public administration, industry, economy, social services, etc. And our main focus and our main purpose will be to foster innovation in order to tackle the challenges that our society and our territory have, especially in 3 areas: economy, environment, and society. No? But maybe the most singular thing that we have is that we try to put together, in order to tackle the challenges, both sides, public and private administration, sometimes public, sometimes private, sometimes public, private, because we understand that if you want to solve or to propose solutions constantly to the society in the challenges that we have, such as, for example, climate change, energy transition, employment, biodiversity, etc., we need to put together different visions, different opinions, maybe sometimes complementary, maybe sometimes opposite, but all of them will be needed in order to implement, to think, and to design these solutions, and in fact, that these solutions will be feasible in the future. No? In fact, now we are involved in several of these projects related to circular economy, last mile logistics, or, for example, risk management.
And for this study in particular, can you tell us why you decided to embark on this study and what was its scope?
Well, in fact, the name of the Institut Cerdà is very linked to the urban planning. Ildefonso Cerdà was the person, the civil engineer, who designed the famous Eixample de Barcelona in the 19th century. So we constantly are thinking and designing and proposing solutions for the challenges that the big metropolitan areas have, and not only the big metropolitan areas, the rural areas as well. Mm-hmm. And according to that, Zona Franca Barcelona addressed us in order to know what's happening in other European economic areas in terms of how they are feeding and maintaining its competitiveness and its attractiveness through the time. No? In fact, Zona Franca Barcelona is a critical actor, not only for the area of Barcelona, but for Catalonia and for Spain, and that this is the reason why we benchmark Barcelona with other European areas.
So in order to do the benchmark, of course, you had to identify other areas that you would set out to benchmark Barcelona Free Zone against. How did you decide which areas to focus on?
Well, first of all, because they are quite comparable, and Zona Franca Barcelona was interested not only knowing what they are doing in terms of logistics, industrial, and technological activity, but also in four challenges that its strategic plan is especially important. I mean innovation, new technologies, social services, and sustainability. So we try to select those zones that not only represent quite similarities with Barcelona, but also they have an important initiatives in these four fields that, for drivers that I mentioned before.
And which zones were they?
Well, first of all, we have to understand what we chose as a Barcelonic economic area, no? Because it's a wider zone than the Zona Franca Barcelona. We include the polygon of Zona Franca, inside this polygon the wholesale market of Mercabarna, the port of Barcelona, and some parts of the district of Barcelona and Hospitalet. But it's also remarkable to say that there are two critical assets for Barcelona that we didn't include it in this study. It's the Barcelona Trade Fair and the airport of Barcelona. Why? Because it was very difficult to find other European areas with exactly the same assets. So we try to choose only that assets that can be comparable. No? You have to keep in mind that, for example, when you talk about this Barcelona economic area, you are talking about more than 2,500 companies, more than 100,000 jobs, and more than 5,000 hectares. No? And so we try to choose these European areas quite similar, and we chose the four main northern European ports, I mean Hamburg, Antwerp, Rotterdam, and Le Havre, the areas of Dublin and London, and the area also of the southern Europe of Marseille, in addition Barcelona, and three inland areas such as Katowice, Lyon, and Milan. We could choose more, but I think that these 11 areas, they are a good representation of the vitality and the viability of the economy and industrial health, you want to say, of Europe.
Okay, and what was on the checklist? Can you give us more detail about what specifically you were benchmarking?
Well, we benchmark especially in three areas, no? One was the activity, the main activity of these areas, I mean logistics, industry, and technology, what they are doing. I think that in the sessions, morning sessions, we see the importance of these activities involved in these areas. What sort of governance they have in order to promote and to manage these sort of areas. And finally, we study the initiatives they are doing in the four drivers that I mentioned before. For example, in innovation, we focus our study in entrepreneurship and research development facilities. When we talk about social services, the focus was on employment and in the relationships between the actors. In sustainability, about the green and circular economy, and finding new technologies, all about how they are managing the data, digitalization, and Industry 4.0 in general.
And did you consider governance? And if so, what kind of governance do these zones tend to have?
Well, it's important to say that in all these areas, you have a very heterogeneous units, no? You have all kind of activities, all kind of companies from a small, medium, and big size, and of course all sort of administrations, from local administration, regional administration, and national administration. No? But if you want to point out some common traits of these areas, I would say that, for example, when you find or you talk about ports or big infrastructures, railway stations, logistics facilities, etc., they generally are promoted and managed by public administration. When you talk about industrial districts, for example, they can be promoted by both industrial and private, but generally managed by private. And finally, when you talk about technological districts, you are talking about that generally they are promoted by public sector and managed by both, by public and private. As you can see, there is an important collaboration between private and public in all these areas. It's maybe the most singular thing that you find in these areas is this public and private partnership.
And if we think further about that partnership, what is your opinion of the importance of the relationship between the public and the private, and how can that lead to success of a zone?
Well, I think when you talk about public and private partnership, we have to say that it's not only useful, but it's absolutely necessary, no? Because it's in order to get the best of the both worlds. When from the private sector point of view, because you can run your business, your companies, and manage your business in investment and facilities in infrastructure that it will be very difficult to make and to plan from the private sector. No, you need the public sector. You have to think and to plan and to promote this investment, and so it's very important that private sector can base its activity, if you want to say, in this sort of infrastructures. But from the public sector point of view, you have an excellent return, if you want, in form of taxes, in form of creation of jobs, and, for example, in important social cohesion of these areas. No, but I would like to point out also that looking to the future, it's important to say that when you find a strong public leadership in these areas, it's better and easier to maintain update and to promote this sort of areas, no? Because private sector or private companies can foresee what they need in the future, what will be the trends, what will be the necessities in operations, in marketing, in markets, in trade, etc. But in fact, it's the public administration who manage these hubs, and they have to maintain these hubs updated. No? And so it's very important to have a strong collaboration between both sides. No? And of course, about that, for example, if you see this, look back these areas 50 years ago, ports of Hamburg, Rotterdam, Barcelona, they were absolutely different. 50 years ago, no, with other kind of companies, with other kind of industries, other kind of activities, but they have been able to maintain update year after year these areas or these infrastructure in order to respond what the markets and what the demand needs.
Given the importance of the public entities, how can zones be consistent throughout political changes? So perhaps one administration might have one policy, they may be replaced. How can that consistency of performance and strategy be maintained?
Well, fortunately, I think that the consolidation of these areas in both sides, from private and public, they are quite independent to these political changes, no?
Okay.
So it's true that maybe from the public point of view, the person who is in charge, or the political party that is in charge of in a particular moment of the one infrastructure or another, can do something, no? But I think that there are the limits of the policies that you can implement in these areas. Fortunately, I think that are quite narrow.
Okay, good. And if we think about the economic activity that's taking place in the zones that you studied, what is the industrial or service industry focus of these zones?
Well, of course, as we listened today, this morning, about supply chain and logistics, no, is the main and the most important activity that you find. Logistics. This will be, you have all activities related to logistics. I mean, maritime transport, road transport, railway, etc. No? The second is, and this is has to be understood in the history of these areas, is that you find the industrial sectors where the logistics is quite important. No, I mean, for example, automobile sector, food sector, chemical, oil and gas, etc. No, in fact, all these northern European ports, Marseille, Barcelona, also has a strong specialization in this sort of industries. No, but it's also important to say that beyond these areas, this specialization in logistics, industrial, specific in these big infrastructures, you have another activities that nothing to do with this sort of logistics and industrial specialization. I mean, new technologies, financial services, biotech, clean tech, etc. No, if you want to point out some, for example, London and Milan would be certainly emphasizing in financial services, Rotterdam, Antwerp, Lyon, Hamburg in biotech, clean tech, or medical services, or for example, new technologies, Katowice, Barcelona, Marseille, or Dublin.
If they are, in some ways, some of them are focused on different economic activities than others, are they in direct competition then?
Between the different areas, of course, they have to compete in order to retain and to attract the main supply chains. No, so they are competing, I think, for the automobile supply chain, the food supply chain. But we have to understand these competitions not only in terms of a particular hub. I mean Rotterdam, Antwerp, Barcelona, Marseille, or Katowice, Milan. But in terms of the supply chain, this is very important to understand that these hubs are belonging at a particular supply chain on all of these sectors that we're talking about.
So they have their own place in the chain.
Exactly.
So you mentioned 4 areas of focus: sustainability, social innovation, and new technologies. What were some of the important projects that you identified within those areas?
Well, in these areas, we identify more or less 150 initiatives, quite balanced in the 4 drivers that I mentioned before: sustainability, innovation, new technology, and social service. Maybe there are an important concentration in sustainability initiatives. In this context, there are initiatives related to renewable energy, green fuels, sustainable mobility, or circular economy. There's a quite important focus on maybe in all the areas that we study. And this sustainability driver concentrates more or less 30% of the initiatives. About in second place will be innovation. When we talk about innovation, we're talking about especially 2 lines: incubators and research and development facilities. Incubators in order to help technically, commercially, and financially possible startups. But maybe it's interesting to say that in these areas, both research developments and incubators are specialized in those sectors that are in these areas. I mean that when you talk about, for example, an automobile incubator or a food incubator, is that because in this area there are certain kind of specialization in this sector. This is quite important. No? In third place would be social services, and I would like to pinpoint here 2 lines: about employment and about gender equality. No? About employment is because there are an important focus in these areas in reskill training programs addressed to workers that have to change from those sectors that are going down to sectors that are growing. This is quite important. From carbonization sectors, if you want, for example, to decarbonization sectors. And also there is an important commitment in these areas related to the gender equality, about transferring indicators, awareness campaigns, events, etc. No? And finally, new technologies that maybe is the more transversal initiative, if you want to say, and is about all related to Industry 4.0, advanced manufacturing, artificial intelligence, 3D printing, etc.
And let's hear a bit about what your ultimate findings were. How does Barcelona Free Zone compare on these various metrics to these other zones? Did you deliver good news or bad news to them?
No, I think there are good news. Well, in fact, there are good news for everybody. For all the areas, there are no special area that is a laggard, no, or the best. Maybe, of course, if I have to choose one, I would say Rotterdam is in the top of the rank, no. But I think that Barcelona is well ahead in the group of these areas, no. Maybe if I have to point out some of the projects that are especially important in this area of Barcelona, I have to say the effort that the Barcelona area is doing in the circular economy and sustainable mobility. There are two important lines. Of course, when you talk about innovation, you have to talk about the 3D printing incubator. It's very clear. And when you talk about new technologies, that in the following weeks will be open the D Factory, that is a key project for the Zona Franca Barcelona. No? And finally, there is also an important commitment of Zona Franca Barcelona with gender equality, and is quite well ahead in this field, comparable with other areas in Europe.
Well, it's overall quite positive. There are a lot of strengths here to draw on and build on. What might be the challenges that Barcelona might face as it tries to continue to succeed?
Maybe I listened this morning a phrase that I listened before also, that we have to move from just in time and just in case, no? And I think that this is a key point for all these areas, no? The supply chain, as we are seeing in this moment, in what's happening with the price of the containers, the price of the instability of the price of the commodities, etc. We need to be concerned about that, no? That these areas have to play not only in terms of just in time, that is maybe not to say easy, but you are relying your activity, in, for example, in General Motors or in SEAT or in the food big companies, no? But you have to be able to respond, as we have seen in the last 2 years, to it just in case, no? And this is very important because is a question that will be more and more important in the next weeks, months, and years.
Absolutely. And before I let you go, do you have any final thoughts you'd like to share, or more importantly, advice you would offer to zones that are trying to compete for investment, how to succeed?
Well, there is no a goal rule, no?
No easy answer.
No, it's not an easy answer, but I think that the best thing that I can say is that you cannot avoid any idea that you have in this moment, because the ball is moving too fast, and the trade is moving too fast, that maybe you need to and maybe there is an important challenge related to what I said about employment, and about when we talk about talent, and about how you transform the skills of our workers in a world that is changing so fast, no? For example, in the case of Barcelona, you have a strong specialization, a strong concentration of activity in tourism, no? And so how you transform the workers that are in specific sectors that maybe they are stable or going down, and you have to move to the sectors that will be in the next years will be critical.
Yes, I think future-proofing the workforce is the most important challenge
Exactly.
for all economic promotion
Exactly.
entities.
Absolutely agree.
Thank you for sharing your findings and your thoughts.
Thank you
For
very
those who might, is the report widely publicly available for those who would be interested
Yes,
to consume it? Where can they find it?
In the website of Zona Franca Barcelona.
Perfect. I hope you all will give it a read. It sounds very interesting and useful. Thank you very much, Carlos, for joining us.
Thank you, Courtney. Thank you very much.
And now we begin the awards part of our program. We had a thought-provoking session. Now this is kind of fun session, because everyone likes to receive awards, and it's also enjoyable to give awards. Well, as you will have heard, I am the editor-in-chief of Investment Monitor. Investment Monitor is a fairly new publication that was launched just over a year ago today. It's a digital-only publication which you can find at www.investmentmonitor.ai, and we cover all things related to cross-border investment, and we take a data-led approach, and our staff includes some of the best FDI experts and data analysts, I think we could say, in the world. And of course, given our focus area of our editorial coverage, economic zones are very important because they are critical components in the FDI value chain as attractors of FDI and also generators of jobs. And so we keep a very close eye on what's happening with economic zones around the world. And of course, we launched at an interesting, let's say, time in the global economy as the world was in chaos from the COVID pandemic, and as the entire nature of FDI was suddenly in flux, the drivers of FDI changing, the recipients, and also along with it, investment promotion strategies have had to adapt and change. So we kind of feel for those who are in the business of investment promotion and who are working hard around the world to try to bring FDI to their jurisdictions at a time when it's probably more challenging than it has ever been, at least in recent memory. So in thinking about economic zones and the challenges that they face and the way that they need to rethink their strategies, we wanted to offer some celebration, really, and recognition of what zones are doing to come up with what we call sustainable recovery strategies. And of course, sustainability means a lot of things, but in this time, as we try to come out of crisis, what it means is future-proofing zones to make them successful for the long haul and changing their strategies in a way that will help them to compete well beyond this pandemic and this unique time that we find ourselves in. So we launched the Investment Monitor Sustainable Recovery Awards for Economic Zones. This was done in partnership with Barcelona Free Zone and with BNU. We were grateful for this collaboration because we all parties involved felt it important to take a step back and shine a little bit of a light on what zones are doing to cope with the new challenges. We put out an entry form, online entry form, and invited zones from around the world to answer the questions set out in the entry form, which were really geared to try to find out how the zones are reshaping their strategies and what they are doing to set themselves up for success as we embark on the new global economy. So we took a few months to collect the entries, give the zones time to enter. We then convened a judging panel. The judging panel consisted of the members of our editorial team and also some of our FDI data analysts, so all experts in foreign direct investment. The judging panel considered the entries and came up with various sets of awards. These awards include individual category awards, special editor choice awards, and this culminated in an overall winner and an overall runner-up. The results were published on Investment Monitor's website on Monday, so we're going to highlight key winners today, but for the full list of winners and further explanation about the awards and why we chose some of the zones that we chose, you can read all about it on investmentmonitor.ai, and I hope you will. So, without further ado, here are our winners. Winner slide, please. Overall winner was Coil Free Zone.
I want to thank Investment Monitor.
Not yet for the video, please. Coil Free Zone, you've heard about in some of the sessions already today. This is an extremely successful, innovative, and dynamic zone in Costa Rica. And Coil placed well in a number of our individual categories, and that caused them to triumph as our overall winner. So congratulations to Coil. We'll hear a little bit later the reaction of Coil's leadership to this exciting win. Overall runner-up is Łódź Special Economic Zone in Poland. Now, Poland is a location that has a number of thriving special economic zones, and although its economic zone model is actually changing, the government in Poland has actually declared the whole of Poland is in fact a special economic zone. There is still scope and space for a special role of these clearly defined areas. And there are a few Polish zones, as you'll see when I go through the full list of winners, that have succeeded in these awards. So let's move on to the category winners. Now again, we set out a handful of special categories, and these are areas where we feel that a zone needs to succeed in order to have a sustainable recovery strategy. They include aftercare support, digitization, COVID relief packages, local impact, new investment, red tape reduction, and of course sustainability and ESG. Now there are more winners than we're showing you here just on this one slide, because each category had an overall winner and a runner-up and also honorable mentions. But just for the sake of brevity of time, we will tell you about the key winners. Again, I really invite you to go and read the full results on our website. Aftercare support, the overall winner was Hualing Free Industrial Zone in Georgia. Now, I also want to take a special moment about this category, partly because aftercare is clearly essential at a time when there are fewer FDI projects and just less FDI out there to compete for due to the big decline in FDI flows. Holding on to the tenants and investors that a zone has is actually the most important thing that can be done. So we really wanted to stress the importance of having strong aftercare at this time of crisis. And there were other zones that we recognized in this category. One of them is SEZ Stupino Quadrat in Russia, and I'm extremely pleased to say that the managing partner and co-founder, Ekaterina Evdokimova, is here with us. Congratulations. We're really excited to have this in-person representation. Ekaterina will be participating in sessions, and we're delighted to see you, and we would like to applaud the success you've had. Next category is digitization. Now, we've heard endlessly about this topic throughout the sessions as part of our program here. It's always been important that zones have good digital strategies, but what the pandemic highlighted is that it's no longer a nice to have, it is a must have. So we wanted to stress the importance of this and take a look at which zones are doing well in crafting digital strategies and pursuing full digitization in order to keep up with the new economy. The winner here is Klaipėda Free Economic Zone in Lithuania. Congratulations. We also had a category of COVID relief packages. Now, this is for the obvious reason that at this time of crisis, it was very important for zones to support the companies and existing tenants that they have and try to find what relief could be offered to the extent that was possible, and also to try to assist in this way any new investors that might come in. And we received a lot of strong entries in this category in particular. Zones we found around the world were very proactive at trying to support their companies and offer relief from the crisis to the extent that they could. But our overall winner, Coil Free Zone, triumphed, taking an extremely comprehensive and proactive approach to supporting its tenant companies. Congratulations to Coil for this. In the next category, local impact, we wanted to really recognize, of course, the impact that zones can have on their local and national economies. As I mentioned at the start, zones are an important creator of jobs globally, and they have an enormous role to play in sustaining the economies in which they operate. Now, we received a lot of good information on this metric as well, but we found that Łódź SEZ in Poland, again, our overall runner-up, had a critical role to play in the development of Łódź. And Łódź itself is an extremely interesting city and city region that's gone through a major transformation in recent decades due to a process of industrial transformation and moving into new sectors after being a kind of production hub for Poland in some older industries, and really has had to renovate and move on with the times. We've published a story about this recently, actually looking at the story of Wuj that you might want to check out. And of course, the special economic zone is critical to that transformation and to continuing to sustain the local economy. Congratulations to Wuj. Wuj also won the next category, which is new investment. So while with the aftercare category, we were looking to see how zones were supporting existing investors and also through the COVID relief packages, here we wanted to look at how they were attracting new projects. Now, attracting new investment at such a difficult time in the timeline of global FDI is really not easy. I don't have to tell anybody here who's representing an economic zone. There's not a lot of investment flowing around out there, and a lot of zones and other entities competing for what is currently a small pot of money. But Wuj landed a number of signature investments showing that they were actually managing to maintain the investment they did have, support their local economy, support existing investors, while also attracting new ones. So congratulations. The success in these categories really helped Wuj to be our overall runner-up. Red tape reduction, of course, this is very important as zones try to continually improve their business friendliness and reduce bureaucracy and make it as easy as possible for investors to set up and grow in their zones. We saw a lot of exciting initiatives around the world aimed at this, and we were quite heartened to see how many zones, especially many in developing economies, that were working hard to slash that red tape. But we found that Klaipėda Free Economic Zone in Lithuania seemed to have the most proactive and seems to be the busiest in slashing away the red tape with a number of initiatives aimed at improving their business friendliness. So we would like to applaud those efforts and congratulate Klaipėda on this. And finally, sustainability and ESG. These are more than just buzzwords. These should be central to the economic promotion and economic development strategy of any economic zone and any entity involved in this business. And we also were encouraged by the number of initiatives going and how many increasingly zones and economic promotion agencies are putting ESG at the heart of their strategy. But Coil Free Zone was leaps and bounds ahead, in our opinion, for the way that they centralized sustainability and ESG and really made an ethos in every way that they operate and promote themselves and engage with investors. And we thought that was fantastic and very much the way forward for the future of FDI. Again, another good reason why Coil triumphed in our awards. Now moving on to what we call the Editor's Choice Awards. With the categories you saw, those were defined categories that we had set out at the outset of the awards, and we knew we would want to recognize winners in those categories. But we want to give a little bit of leeway as well for things that we might stumble across, little gems we might discover as the judges work their way through the entry forms. And these are special awards to recognize certain initiatives that caught our eye. There are a number of them. If you could bring that slide back so people can read through them, would be great. They included adapting to crisis, which of course is crucial in this time of flux. Zone America Colombia and La Paja Special Economic Zone in Latvia received that award. Advocacy. This was to recognize zones that were advocating and pushing for reforms and policies from government leadership that would aid zones and spur FDI. Here we recognize Blackpool Airport Enterprise Zone in the UK. Community support. These are zones pitching in to try to help their own communities deal with the crisis of COVID. Lepec Special Economic Zone in Russia, which geared its activities towards building machinery, equipment, and PPE to help cope with the healthcare crisis, won the award for those activities. COVID fighters, similarly, what zones were doing to pitch in to really wage battle against COVID, whether by producing products that were in demand or giving aid and charitable support to their community, or even helping try to fight and come up with a cure. Pomeranian Special Economic Zone in Poland and SEZ Technopolis in Moscow, Russia, were both seen to be leaders in the fight against COVID through their various activities. Digital connectivity, extremely important to have the right ICT infrastructure in place to aid digital business these days. Blackpool Airport Enterprise Zone in the UK impressed us on that metric. Encouraging entrepreneurship, so helping startups and those who would like to start companies, not just those who are coming in with a fully made company. We were impressed with Rezekne Special Economic Zone in Latvia, which has a number of active programs geared towards supporting local and other entrepreneurs. Enhance value was a category to award moving up the value chain, adding new value to products that are produced in the special economic zone, and doing more value add activities. Astana, New City, and Kazakhstan won this award. Congratulations. Industry 4.0, of course, an essential activity these days, as most zones gear towards this activity. But Klaipėda Free Economic Zone in Lithuania stood out for their Industry 4.0 strategy. Institutional cooperation. This is bringing together other stakeholders involved in the local, national, or regional economy, all for mutual benefit. Rezekne Special Economic Zone was the winner here for their active efforts to bring parties together. One to watch. This is a zone still in formation, but we thought have some exciting potential for future. Prahavo Industrial Chem Park in Serbia is our one to watch. Safety, essential before COVID, even more essential now. We were interested in which zones had policies to keep their workers and their companies and their tenants and also the community safe. Santander Offshoring and Outsourcing Park in Colombia won that with their notable and proactive safety regimes. Supporting startups. So not just the entrepreneurs themselves, but activities geared towards fostering and helping startups grow and develop. SEZ Innopolis in Russia impressed us with their programs for that. Use of sustainable energy fits very well, of course, in a wider ESG strategy. Zona Franca Metropolitana in Colombia won for their use of renewable and sustainable energy. And finally, young talent. Of course, it's all about the future and cultivating talent. And we were impressed with Zona America and Colombia and their efforts to train, nurture, and cultivate young talent in the local community. So I want to offer an extremely hearty congratulations to all those winners, not just that you saw here, but the others that were recognized in our full and comprehensive results. And thank you to the zones who participated for taking the time to share your strategies with us. That will also help inform our coverage of zones as we've moved forward. So now I'm delighted to share that our top 2 winning zones have prepared acceptance speeches, which we will share with you now. Let us hear first from the Vice President of WUJ Special Economic Zone Board in Poland, our overall runner-up.
Monitor Economic Zone Sustainable Recovery Strategies Awards, and we have been successful. Thank you for that honor and pleasure that we have been ranked as a second economic zone overall, and also we have been pointed and won 2 categories: local impact and new investment, and also we have been mentioned for digitalization and sustainable growth. Well, in WUJ Special Economic Zone, we have been working for last 25 years to improve and build effective ecosystem for business, to support business, to match administration, business, and all the parties that could build effective economic growth. Our services are dedicated to business and also to technological growth, financial support, qualification support, and any needs that we have been discovered in business. Well, hopefully see you next year, and definitely we will be working to be ranked so high next year. Bye-bye. It's been a first.
Thank you to WUJ and your leadership for your acknowledgement and your gratitude for this award, and congratulations again, and we wish you much continued success as you carry your strategy forward. And now I'm pleased to present to you a special message from Carlos Wong, who leads Coil Free Zone, our overall winner.
And I want to thank Investment Monitor for allowing Coyol Free Zone to participate of this process. This process has awarded Coyol an important prize, the overall winner position. This position is very important. This award means for us not only recognition of the effort that we've been going through the past few years, but also an important point about the resiliency of Coyol during the COVID pandemic. We not only are a winner, but also this proves something very important, that Costa Rica is also a winner in this position. We win the award also because during our 2020 years, we received $51 million in new investment. We also acted with a very solid COVID relief strategy where we created important measures in the field of the transportation. We provide a lot of sterilization processes. We work very strongly with the authorities in the vaccination process. In the testing, we donated equipment, we donated testing materials, and supported the health system of Costa Rica by helping the hospitals in improving the conditions to receive the COVID patients. Also, the mental conditions for the health workers are very important. So concerts and activity to help them overcome this situation was part of our activity and very important. We worked very close with the authorities and created a declaration of essential activity in the free zone. This allowed us to continue working through all the COVID process. During this year, we created more than 1,500 new jobs and also improve our training programs, transforming them from on-site education to digital education. Thank you, Investment Monitor, for this award.
And thank you to Carlos Wong and to Coyol Free Zone for that statement, which also helped give you even further ideas of why this zone triumphed. Big congratulations to Coyol Free Zone, and of course we wish you continued success as well. Thank you all for tuning in. Congratulations to all the winners, and thank you to Barcelona Free Zone for the cooperation and helping to bring these awards to you. Bye.
We'll meet again at 5 p.m. with you for another panel. Ahora lo que vamos a hacer es una breve pausa, son y 47, volvemos a las 3 en punto con el próximo panel, que va a ser un encuentro con las principales zonas económicas españolas. Hasta ahora.